Hello everyone and welcome to another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle I'm going to be playing the Beastmen led by Morkar the Shadowgave. And guys, we're going to be facing off against the Warriors of Chaos who do appear to have the Demon's View. So guys, let's get ready to have some fun. So as far as the army composition goes, in the front line I do have a combination of Gore Herds, and these are the dual wielding variant that have higher weapon strength and have some decent offensive stats mixed in with some Best of Gore Herds. So again, I have a very expensive army. I have the Eye of Morsleep, I have the Koroks Man Rippers, and then I also do have the Sons of Goros in the back. Several very expensive regiments of renown. So just to make sure that my front line wasn't too sparse, I decided to, pad it a little bit with some low tier infantry. So the Gore Herds do tend to struggle a little bit against Chaos. They trade okay with Forsaken, but against Chaos Warriors and things like that, they just don't have enough armor piercing to really kind of punch a hole in them. So aside from that, best scores in the front line, just a kind of traditional armor-piercing frontline unit of the Beastmen, and they trade okay with the Chaos Warriors with great weapons, and they actually do really well against Forsaken with their 100 armor. But nonetheless, Chaos Warriors with great weapons, in my opinion, are quite a bit more cost-effective, because these guys have 40 melee attack to 21 melee defense, and the Chaos Warriors have 34 and 34, but they're also a lot cheaper. Chaos Warriors, I think, cost like 875 or 850 compared to these guys who are like 1,000. So 3 of them in the front line, and one more group of Gores on the far side. I also do have 2 groups of the Ungor Raiders here, and Chaos does bring a lot of targets for these guys. They usually bring Shaggoths, and personally when I play against the Beastmen, I really like to bring Shaggoths, because Beastmen missile pressure isn't that devastating, and they do have some anti-large options in Gorbals and things like that. But Kolak's pretty mobile, and he can kind of run around and use the support of his other Chaos troops to really kind of evade that. But nonetheless, I think you do need some missiles to poke them down and take out those big monsters. In the back, I do have the Koroks Man Rippers, so these guys are the Regiment of Renown of the Best Gore Herds, and they are definitely awesome. One of my favorite, and I think one of the more competitive picks for the Beastmen Regiment of Renown roster. They have 40 weapon strength, so it's a little bit less than traditional Best Gores. They have good armor-piercing values, but they also do have bonus first large. So, one of the weaknesses of, great weapon frontline troops is just getting stomped on by giants and other large units. So these guys, in a way, mitigate that threat, and also on top of that, they have 47 melee defense and 45 melee attack, so they are an incredible unit. We do have the Eye of Morsleep right here. This guy's, he's kind of like, I don't know. I always bring him and I'm on the fence. Like, there's games where I bring him and I get a really good Eye of, a Warp Gaze, which is this ability right here. For those of you guys just joining the channel, he snares an enemy unit. It's like the effigy of the Gate. So there's games where I get that and I'm like, man, that was super devastating. That's the reason I won. But then there's games where it's kind of like, you get it, it's a little lackluster and you're like, man, I could have had like 2 more Best Scores for the cost of this guy. I don't know, it's a little bit tough. But regardless, on top of that, I do have 2 Sons of Goros. These guys are pretty good. They have Guardian, but what's really nice about them against Chaos is Chaos has really kind of a punishing cav. Their Chaos Knights destroy lightly armored cav. So these guys have a little bit more armor, and it gives them some durability against the Chaos Knights. So that's it for my force. For my opponent, he has 2 Chaos Chariots, which are, or Gorbeast Chariots, I should say, which are going to be pretty devastating in my front line for sure. They're, you guys all know how well chariots do against the dwarves and those frontline great weapon, those frontline great weapon troops, and these things can definitely do the same against Best Gore Herds. Aside from that, he has a very heavy Forsaken army, so the Best Gores will beat the Forsaken, head to head. Granted, he has much greater numbers in the front line, so I'm going to need to get some good charges with my Cav, some good play with the Eye of Morsleep, and also get those Koroks Man Rippers on the right targets. On top of that, he does have a Chaos Lord with a potion and the Filth Mace, which is actually going to be pretty cool against the Beastmen. The Filth Mace does imbue the Chaos Sword with terror, I think. Yeah, it causes terror. He also does have the Lore of Death, so he has Fade Immune and Spirit Leech, so he's probably just going to Fade Immune my Koroks Man Rippers, and 2 Halberds in the back to deal with monstrous threats, which is pretty gangster. So guys, without further ado, let's get this game rolling. So right now, I'm trying to take down the Demon's View with my freaking my Eye of Morsleep, and I almost made a good contact there. It looks like I actually got one, but he was coming in with his chariot, so I was just kind of screening his movement with the Centaurs with great weapons who will destroy them. Chariots really don't have any way of getting through like massive units, and you can also see my missiles are going to be peppering them, which is going to be pretty good. He does charge into some of my Best Gores right here, and it's going to be a very blobby battle. Nonetheless, I'm actually really eager to see how this trade goes with the Gore Herds versus the Forsaken, but I'm pretty sure the Forsaken will just smash them, especially since there's like 2 extra groups coming down the hill. In the front line, you can see the Best Gores have engaged, and it's kind of hard to tell friend from foe in here. But nonetheless, something that's going to be really backbreaking in the front line is the fact that he has the Demon's View. So the Demon's View do have that -8 melee attack buff. And it's funny, this guy, look at his animation right here. It's kind of like a pimp slap. He literally gets his hand and like backhands the guy. It's pretty cool. But in the middle, this is going pretty well for me. My Koroks, my Sons of Goros and my other Cav units have pinned down his chariots and are doing some pretty good damage to these guys. They're not really getting much done. So that was a very good situation. I also do have some Gore Herd coming up and around the flank, and my missiles are, firing pretty well. Morkar in the center does have a big horde on him, though, and he is a little bit outmanned. You can see the enemy Chaos Lord coming in with his Filth Mace, and Morkar, even though he's very tanky, he can still go down like pretty quick to these type of units. He does also have Lore of Death, and you can see he's probably going to be engaging his Halberds. So in the back, he does get some Forsaken up and around the flank, and I do send my my Eye of Morsleep, who's going to get in there and probably do a little bit of stomping. Oh, here he goes. Yeah, I love the stomp animation. It's one of my favorites. So he's going to stomp, and it's probably going to hit a few of these guys. Yeah, you can see it actually delimbs one of those Forsaken, and the Koroks Man Rippers are going to intercept and be able to mitigate these guys, and also Warp Gaze. So guys, guys, like, times like that, Warp Gaze is very powerful, because now these Koroks Man Rippers, they'll probably lose like 3 or 4 models, but honestly, we'll take these Forsaken, you know, completely apart. But he was able to just collapse my flank horribly. I think he used a Fate of Buna over there and was able to just like punish my forces. So I'm trying to screen him with the Koroks Man Rippers while these ones are Warp Gaze, but he just has too much pressure in my back line. And it looks like that's where the Fate of Buna was. So I do kind of shut down the Chariots, and you can see my my Sons of Goros, my other cav are going to charge in here right now and, you know, intercept these Forsaken. But Forsaken guys trade very, very well with Centaurs, because Centaurs are very squishy as far as cav goes. They have low melee defense, low armor, so Forsaken are going to massacre these guys. So this is, though I'm intercepting them and kind of buying some time for my missiles, it's still going to be a rough trade when the Forsaken decided to turn around. And, you know, ultimately I just kind of had to resign to my fate that these Forsaken are going to catch me. So I just kind of stop and engage with the Koroks Man Rippers, and we should be able to do a little bit of damage to these guys. And you can also see the Eye of More Sleeves going around. Just that one Forsaken just got like just sent to the Shadow Realm, just absolutely crushed. I like how that it just isolated that one. So in the front line though, this is what really was the turning point in the battle. You can see Morka the Shadow Gave was isolated, and I tend to forget about him, because like I kind of have this aura of invincibility about him. It's kind of like when Mike Tyson, you know, went into the ring, you know, was very, very confident. You're like, oh, nobody can touch him. But you know, if you leave him alone and let him get isolated by these guys, it's like he's gonna go down. So I mean, he got like beaten down by this Chaos Sword and the Demon Spew and all those other troops. And I still had so many Chaos Spawn to use. I got like one group off, but I think I still had a staff as well as like a whole nother fresh summon. So that was really rough. Granted, the balance of power is still very even. So you can see over here, my Centaurs and Sons of Goros are just charging in, doing a little bit of cycle charging. I was just trying to protect that Eye of More Sleeve and just, you know, keep it fighting, because, you know, Chaos does have a little bit of trouble against monsters units. Granted, Forsaken do, you know, enough damage against 50 armor of this guy, and he also does have halberds fighting here. So, you know, it's going to be a wild fight. So right now I do have my Ungor Raiders kind of peppering in here and just, you know, applying some pressure. I do have my Sons of Goros over here trying to protect. So I was trying to send them to, you know, protect Morker, but they got dragged back by the AI. So you can see I had to repath there right there. They were actually, I think 1 or 2 of the models was stuck right there. My opponent gets a very nice intercept right here on the Sons of Goros. So he actually intercepts these guys and kills several of them. And I'm just telling you guys, Forsaken really wrecked these guys. So I'm trying to rescue Morker. I'm like, if I can rescue him, he'll probably regenerate another like 1,000 HP, but he's just so incredibly low. And my opponent has these Forsaken coming as well, and I had some Gorherds coming, but I pretty much knew like he was done for at that point. So in the main battlefield, you can see some of my Chaos Spawns still fighting in the pits against their fellow Chaos buddies. And the Chaos Lord's in great shape though, and he also does have that Filth Mace, which is probably coming back off cooldown. And wow, he just took that Chaos Spawn. That was pretty cool. But I do have the missiles coming back, and the Koroks Man Rippers were able to chase off a pretty healthy group of Forsaken. Granted, I shouldn't have chased that far. That was actually something that probably really cost me the game. Well, not necessarily the game, but this particular situation. This main point here, but the Koroks Man Rippers chasing like off the battlefield, like I needed them in this fight to be cutting through all these Chaos troops, but my opponent was able to get a ton of damage on the Eye of More Sleeve, as well as my Chaos Spawn, and my line really buckled without these Koroks Man Rippers there. That was really, really tough. I do drop a Warp Gaze on these guys, and I start focusing them with missiles because I didn't want them to be able to chase the Eye of More Sleeve. And over here on the far side, you can see that Morker does indeed die to that Chaos Sorcerer. I believe he did use a Spirit Leech to finish him off. So, but as far as the rest of the forces go, balance of power is still very even. You can see the Koroks Man Rippers, a bit of a tongue twister, coming in there, and they're going to get a nice little charge on these guys, and they have a decent charge bonus, if I'm not mistaken. We'll actually check it in just a moment, but they're definitely a superior halberd unit to these guys. Charge bonus of 22, so that's not bad, but I believe regular Bestigor herds are quite a bit higher. Yeah, they have 32, so... Right now, we're trying to isolate this Chaos Lord, but his Filth Mace is back online, and I believe the Primal Fury has worn off, because I think it's like if their leadership is below 50%. So yeah, you can see, I think they actually just, yeah, those ones actually do Terror Route right there. So the Chaos Lord's able to kind of get free, and the Eye of More Sleeve is just trying to chase down this Lord and just kind of stomp him. Because if I'm able to get this Lord and maybe get some, you know, Koroks Man Rippers winning the center point, and you know, have some of these Centaurs coming back as well, I think there, you know, there could still potentially be a chance for me coming back right here. So you can see this Chaos Sorcerer just kind of moving around, going after my missile units. I still have a pretty healthy firing squad right here of 55, firing into the center mass, and you can see the Koroks Man Rippers just racking up tons of value. 86 kills. These Chaos Warriors with halberds are almost gone. And honestly, the Koroks Man Rippers like might be able to take like all 3 of the remnants of these troops, especially with a little bit of missile fire. But unfortunately, in the back line, my opponent is just kind of running rampant. But you can see the Eye of More Sleeve. I thought about turning and like throwing some boulders at these guys, but I was like, I need to just get some good melee attacks. I don't want to friendly fire my own Koroks Man Rippers, so I was figuring, hey, maybe these guys can hold, and the Eye of More Sleeve can come in there and just kind of stomp the yard a little bit. So some of my missile units are being dragged down by some of his, well, not some of his, but by his Chaos Sorcerer in the back. So I do have several groups of Bestigors coming back as well. So they're starting to reroute, and it's, man, what an incredibly close battle, even after losing Morker pretty well. I really like that my opponent was able to goon Morker, because like that's one of the big things about the Beastmen is like he has that staying power, and if he does, like you're gonna get like 4,000 resources worth of value almost. I mean, with all the Chaos Spawns, you really need to take him out. And my opponent using the Filth Mace as well as Lure of Death, he was able to really crash that middle pocket using the Demon Spew, and then it allowed Morker to be isolated. So that was, you know, a very, very well played tactic by my opponent for sure. Looks like it's going to be, you know, all she wrote. So very well played, super fun game. But I like the Beastmen versus Chaos matchup. It's definitely pretty cool, and I like the fact that, you know, Chaos, they got Shaggus, they got buffed, right? So now they have armor, but all of a sudden the Beastmen have the Koroks Manrippers who, you know, have armor piercing and anti-large. Gives you some pretty good options there. The Eye of Morsleeve is a pretty cool unit. I probably should have been a little bit more liberal with like throwing the boulders and things like that. I kind of used them in melee quite a bit, but man, that Warp Gaze was pretty nice. You guys saw like it initially saved my missile units in the back. I was able to intercept those Forsaken and really beat them down and do some good work. Also, the Centaurs were able to mitigate the Chariots, but it was a lot of back and forth there. It was quite a bit of fun. So I like my opponent's army composition. Forsaken are pretty strong, and even though they're not like an AP unit, they still have a really good charge bonus and such high weapon strength that they can do okay against Bestigors. Granted, they'll lose head to head, but for the cost, they're what, like 750 against like 1,000 or 1,100 to the Bestigors. So you know, you can bring a lot of meat and potatoes here and get around my flanks very aggressively, which I thought was pretty cool. So very well played to my opponent, PL Raptor 6 SF. Look forward to seeing you again on ladder. And hey, hopefully you guys enjoyed this Beastmen game. Have an excellent night and take care.